It's been a rough few days here in Ireland. We've been battered mercilessly by the so-called storm of a generation. I think it's called Storm Eowyn. Who comes up with these names, by the way? If you're going to give a storm of a generation a name, something to strike terror into people's hearts, come up with something like Storm Evil, Storm Evisceration, not Storm Eowyn. But anyway, I digress. I looked at some of the news reports that have been filtering in over the last few days, and one of them said that this storm had Ireland in its sights, almost as if it was some kind of a thinking entity that had singled out and targeted Ireland to bash and buffet before it moved across into Scotland and into England. And yes, there was a lot of heavy winds. There was a lot of disruption. Trees were blown over. Power lines were knocked out. People were without electricity, and still are, on quite a large scale, admittedly. But this is nothing new. This is what happens when there's periods of exceptionally high winds. Power lines go down and electricity goes off. And usually, the electricity provider will say, we don't have the manpower to cover this. It's going to take us a while to get everyone back up and running again, which is exactly what's happening right now. I looked at some of the footage that was coming in. What did I see? I saw waves coming over sea walls. It happens here all the time. I saw a children's trampoline blowing over a fence. I saw roof tiles being blown off houses and people sweeping them up. I saw people sitting indoors saying they didn't want to go out and risk it. That's called common sense. Sadly, there was reports coming in of a young man that died in Ireland. A tree fell on his car, which is very tragic. But again, these things happen in storms. It's to be expected. It's dangerous. If you can avoid travel, you should avoid travel. But they took it to another level here, given that this thing only lasted for 24 hours. Trains were cancelled. Entire shopping chains, supermarkets decided to shut down for the day. Shops were pulling down their shutters. People were afraid to go out. People were afraid to go out, except a lot of news reporters who were seen with their coats on, getting soaked in the rain and blown around in the wind with their camera crews, reporting on how dangerous this storm was, but yet they felt safe enough to brave the elements to bring us their news reports. And when they were out walking around, they happened upon people who also had ventured out for a walk. Granted, the conditions were rough, but it wasn't keeping them indoors. So what do? Well, there's nothing we can do. It's called winter time. And in winter time, the winds blow a little bit harder. The temperature drops a little bit lower. The rains usually increase a little bit more, and flooding happens. So whilst this storm is subsiding, we're being told to brace for the next one. Periods of low temperatures, ice on untreated roads, flooding may occur in certain areas, heavy rainfall. Yes, it's called winter time. And what we have seen here in Ireland over the last 2 weeks, actually, since the start of the year, call it 3 weeks, is we have been advised to stay at home twice. One for icy weather. Temperature drop below zero, stay at home. Don't go out in case you slip on the footpath. And now we've been told to stay at home because of a storm that's coming in like we've never seen before. My own personal damage that occurred, some bins blew over at the side of my house and a gate post broke that was attached to a fence. That's it. Took me all of 3 minutes to clean up. Yes, maybe I was lucky. Maybe I didn't feel the brunt of it, but that was my experience of it. And most of the people that I know. So for those that are without electricity, they'll get it back up and running again, like they do after every storm and after every power line that comes down. But they've started sending out alerts, these climate alerts to mobile phones. People have been saying, I just got a red alert to my phone telling me not to go out of my house. And people are actually staying in as a result of this. Use some common sense. If it looks dangerous out there, don't go out. If you don't need to go out, don't go out. But don't be terrified about staying indoors when you can realistically go out. Take a little bit of caution. Don't do anything stupid. It's called common sense. But people are trying to replace common sense with fear. Climate lockdown, stay in your house, red alert. Use common sense. Respect nature. Respect storms. Don't do anything crazy. And you'll get by, like everybody has, every year since time immemorial. This is No Risk, No Reward Remedia. Remedia? Media. Over and out.